The Wrestling Perspective podcast is now live. Petey Williams, Dennis Farrell, what's going on, Petey?
How's she going, eh?
Listen, I am amped up. I am like a kid in a candy store. We just got done interviewing Jeff Jarrett, which is a personal favorite of mine growing up in the Southern wrestling territories. He's your former boss. I'm like coming off this interview high right now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll post that at the end. What we talked to Uncle Jeff about, Jeff Jarrett. I call him Uncle Jeff. But yeah, really great talking to him again. Always enjoyed talking to him and shooting breeze with him. One of my favorite bosses I ever had in my entire life. Any job that I've ever had, one of my favorite bosses.
We get some decent dirt. I feel like this wasn't just a fluff interview. He gave us a little bit. Maybe you could call it rumor killer. You can keep it up to yourself going forward, but I felt like this was a good interview.
Well, or maybe he's doing the whole reverse psychology thing. Like, oh, he knows a lot of people listen to our podcast, so he'll throw that out there to throw them off, and you'll see a little bit later on.
Let's talk about a few things. Are you eating Tic Tacs? This is the beauty of live podcasting.
No, I'm not. Don't even worry about that. Let's keep going.
A hungry hippo?
No.
All right. I'm not even editing that out. That's awesome right there. Listen. I was at Raw here in Detroit this past week, and I got to witness firsthand Braun Strowman burying. I mean, just put the shovel in the ground, put the tombstone up, the tag team division on Raw. And I don't mean this from a comic standpoint, but to me, when you have, I don't care how big they are, and maybe this is me learning from you, and I'll explain it here in a second. I think they booked themselves into a corner here.
Well, what happened? Did he beat up all the tag team divisions?
Yep. So what?
By himself?
Yep. What happened was they had a tag team battle royal for the number one contenders at WrestleMania versus the Bar. Thank you for making me explain this to the fans who might have missed this. That's the one thing I have to work on that you've told me. So he comes out and basically throws everybody out. You know, there's a moment where they're like, should we let him in? Should we not? Braun's like, ring the bell. And all by himself, he basically throws the whole tag team division out. Now it's him by himself, and unless they add a partner, which even then I'm not sure if it would work, versus the Bar at WrestleMania. You've built the Bar up so big that there's quote-unquote not an opponent worthy enough to face at WrestleMania. You've built Braun up by surviving car accidents and flipping, trucks, and just this monstrous acts of strength. Either way, at WrestleMania, someone's going to lose some momentum here in big time. If, Petey, am I wrong?
Yes and no. So there's two ways you could look at this. You could look at it as, yeah, maybe they booked themselves in the corner. They wanted Braun in a certain, match. It didn't come to fruition. So now they're like, okay, what do we do with him? Oh, we'll have him kill the tag team division and then, challenge the Bar pretty much. So that could have been the way they booked themselves in the corner, right? And then they're trying to get out of it. And so I'm assuming that's their backup plan. But it's also booking 101. So how do you usually get a number one contender for a title? You build them up, right? Mm-hmm. So Braun Strowman's been built up more than anybody, and then right there, eliminating everybody in the Battle Royal. I mean, that's the ultimate build that he can take on these guys by himself. That's the ultimate monster, all right? So let's say, that's where you got him. You built him up, right? Oh, my God, he's going to win. Let's say the Bar beats him. Okay, so there's two ways to book this. Let's say the Bar beats him, if he's solo, or him and his partner, whatever. That elevates the Bar really high. Can Braun lose some steam? Yeah, but they can also put him on Raw the next day and just destroy the Bar and put them both in ambulances and flip them. Like, that's what they can do, right, to get his momentum back. Or they can have Braun Strowman win with him by himself or his partner, right? And now he's the dominating force. So the next challengers that actually end up beating him or beating them, that's going to elevate them too. So, I mean, it's a way. There is people that are going to get elevated in minor steps back, but I don't think it's going to kill anybody's momentum, like completely kill, like, oh, this guy's going to be done after this feud. Nope. I think everybody's going to benefit from it.
I disagree. Okay. I'm looking at it right now in my mind, and I see Braun by himself, unfortunately, pinning one of the Bar. Going forward, how do you sell me that the Bar is the premier tag division if they get pinned by one man, no matter how big he is? And on the flip side, how can you sell me that Braun is this monster beast when he has, stood up and taken down so many crazy situations that he can't beat a tag team? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it is true. But I mean, look at before they were a tag team. I mean, it kind of sucks because they both actually lost momentum being formed as a tag team. Because Sheamus is a former world champion. Cesaro, I mean, not a former world champion, but dude, look at some of his old singles matches and stuff like that. And he used to be a Paul Heyman guy. Like, they were really pushing him. Like, these guys are two big stars, and they put them together. And I feel like whenever you put, like, two big stars together, it kills both their momentum. Like, kind of like when they put, like, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose together.
Yeah.
Like, that, I felt, killed both their singles pushes. That's just what happened. So, yeah, I mean, you're right in a way, but, also, I do feel like I'm right in a way as well. It depends how – it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting what happens at WrestleMania and, like, what happens shortly after.
I'm excited to see it. I think that could be one of the better matches on the card. The whole WrestleMania is just shaping up. The last several years, it feels like it's just – 3-on-3 triple match, 6-man tag teams. There's hardly ever one-on-one matches, and it's kind of killing the excitement for me.
Yeah, no, and I remember back when I was working, we did a house show for TNA Impact Wrestling in Mexico, and it was myself versus AJ versus Eric Young. And at the time, me and AJ had two really good singles pushes going on. This is back when Eric Young was not in a big singles push, but they needed a spot for him on the show. And, we had the match. I don't even remember who won or how it turned out or whatever, but I remember Kurt Angle watching it, and he says, good match. He's like, I really wish it was a singles match between, like, yourself and AJ. He's like, there's just something much more special when it comes to a singles match, like two guys battling it out. There's more drama and stuff like that, just one-on-one. He says that feels kind of watered down when there's three people or multiple people in the match, and it's right. You know what I mean? Like, there's a truth to that, and that's why I think part of it, like, the X Division's been watered down a little bit because for the longest time, how many multiple man match like I was just in one at Bound for Glory. It was a 6-man X Division title match, and that was like the only X Division match on the whole card. Sometimes it's like, okay, but it does feel watered down. You're right, Dennis.
I really hope things turn around for Eric Young and AJ Styles. Hopefully they'll catch on somewhere and make it
hope
big.
So. I wish them all the best. I wonder what they're doing now, but I'll catch up with them later.
And even Kurt Angle, you've just mentioned three guys that that are at the top of the industry. They don't have a podcast like us.
No, they do not. That's we have one up on them. Yep,
by the way, to the fans, we want to say thank you very much. We have been killing it on the iTunes charts, and we couldn't do this without you. Petey and I were a little nervous leaving Wrestling Inc. We weren't sure how many people would follow us, and it feels like everybody has followed us. You've welcomed us into your iPhones and Stitcher and all that stuff with open arms. Even the comments. A few weeks ago, we read an email from a guy who was mad that we're spoiling Impact for him. Then we manned up and said, hey, we didn't think about this. We were sorry. The guy leaves us a 5-star review. Did you see that picture I sent you?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? But we're taking into account what everybody's saying. Like, you don't want spoilers, so I say spoiler alert, or we don't even talk about it. Can we say spoiler alert now, by the way? Happy anniversary, Petey? Happy anniversary for what?
It was 11 years ago that you've pulled down the first briefcase, and then last night, Thursday night, spoiler alert if you haven't watched Impact yet, what'd you do?
I was once again 11 years later. I went up, feast or fired match. I was the first one to retrieve a briefcase yet again. And, just so everybody knows, all right, 11 years ago, when I pulled it down, then, I had the briefcase for a while. There was, all this stuff happened with it. Eventually, I cashed it in and got the X Division title. So right now I'm batting 1,000, in a Feast or Fired match and cashing it in. So, hopefully I could do the same thing, coming up. I won't spoil anything and how, it turns out or anything, but hopefully it happens again.
Has it hit the internet yet? How it turned out?
On the internet, it does say how I cash it in, but we actually haven't. This is spoiler alert. We haven't done it yet where I actually cashed it in.
Okay.
So
you'll have to tell me off the air because now I'm very curious. Have you told me yet? You haven't told me.
No, you already know everything.
Okay. Yes.
The spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. My cash in is at the next pay-per-view, which we haven't filmed yet, right? Because it's in April. So
that's right. Let's move on and talk a little bit about this All In. We've not discussed it once. It's our fault. I'm slowly getting excited for this. The build-up has been amazing. And just the other day, Cody Rhodes, however you want to address him, actually tweeted out that, telling by the hotel reservations, they're going to come pretty close to hitting their mark just by hotel reservations. Tickets will go on sale around May, maybe earlier. So All In, Chicago. What do you think? We called the Chicago thing, by the way.
Yes, we did call it. We were talking about certain cities, and we narrowed it down, and we said Philly, good wrestling cities and stuff like that. And I think you mentioned like the West Coast, LA. It's like that's not really. And that's when we said Chicago. Chicago's going to be the city. Chicago's like the biggest wrestling town. If you look at the best draws in WWE and the best towns that they go to, stuff like that, Chicago's number one. Even when Impact used to go to Chicago, it was great. Same with Ring of Honor. Chicago's the wrestling capital, I feel, of the United States, I want to say.
Let me ask,
just great fans, great atmosphere and stuff like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because there's been a lot of teasing, nothing confirmed. I don't even know if it's a real rumor about CM Punk showing up to this show. And if there was one show that I could see him showing, he's not going to wrestle. I think he's okay with being done with wrestling. But if there's one show I could see him show up and maybe cut a promo, it would be this one.
Yeah, if there was one show, because this is like a one-time deal. Mm-hmm. This is a huge thing that really hasn't been done before. It's not a contract-based anything. And, he knows, like, they're the hottest thing pretty much in wrestling, debatable, but definitely outside of WWE. The Bullet Club and stuff like that. So, but I don't know how close he is with any of these guys. I don't know, but it's right in his backyard. So
from what I've read,
it could happen. I would not be shocked if it happened, but I also wouldn't be disappointed if it didn't happen.
From what I've read, he's very good friends with one of the Jacksons. So that's just from what I've read. And this is a beautiful middle finger to the WWE. And I feel anything he could do to help that middle finger get a little stronger, he would do. My question about the CM Punk to you would be, using your Booker mind, do you surprise pop him up just in case? Or if you can get him to show up for 5 minutes, do you advertise the hell out of it?
That depends on the pre-sales. All right, so that's how you do that. So let's say tickets go on sale May 1st, for argument's sake. They said sometime in May, and the show September 1st. If they're sold out, or there's pre-sales, because they want to get 10,000. If they're sold out before September, why announce anything on the card? Announce who's going to be there. Don't announce any matches or anything. So you got to do it strategically. Like, say if they're nowhere near the 10,000 and they're getting close to the show date, then you might want to either announce some matches or maybe announce that CM Punk's going to make an appearance. And once you make that announcement, then the ticket sales will go up. So I would, if I was the booker, I would see how the ticket sales go. I would say your biggest sale is going to be the day that they go on sale. That'll be your biggest percentage-wise for tickets sold, because everybody's going to be waiting and want to get their tickets first. They don't know if they're going to sell out or not, or whatever the case may be. So, and then, you kind of gauge to see what your ticket sales are from then on. So it depends. I mean, it depends if they need it or not. If they don't need it, sold out, do not advertise Punk. Have them show up as a surprise. That's how I would book it.
What is your relationship with, the Jacksons or any of those people?
The Young Bucks, yeah. I used to work with them over at I worked with them in TNA. I went back for a little stint. I want to believe, when was it? In like December, January of whatever year. It was the first time they called me back. We did like a one night only type pay-per-view. I think I even had the blonde hair and stuff like that. I just figured like, I'll come back different or whatever the case may be. And D'Lo Brown was actually the talent relations director, and he was one that called me and was like, yeah, here's the deal. I'm like, all right, sure. And, we did a bunch of tapings and stuff like that. Not Impact relate, like non-television. It was their one night only stuff. And me and Sanjay actually wrestled the Young Bucks. And it was great, man. We were just like, and we were joking around in the back, and we were starting to plan stuff and then plan more stuff and then adding stuff to the stuff we already planned. And we were just like, if we're going to be doing that, then we might as well do this too. And we just went out there and tore it up. Like, it was awesome. And then, there was another company called Family Wrestling Entertainment, I believe. FWE. It was in Brooklyn, New York. The guy used to bring in like everybody. And they still talk about the 6-man we had to this day. It was me and the Bucks versus Jay Lethal and Kendrick and Brian Kendrick and Paul London. And, that was, we had a great time there. Those guys are awesome. And then, we'd share pizza in their hotel room afterwards, and really down to earth guys. What I like about them is they can they joke about how good they are. And I think it comes across, that's how at least I read it on Twitter when they joke about how good they are. Like, even though they are that good, there's truth behind it. They do mean it as a joke. Mm-hmm. And that's how I take it. I don't think it comes across as cocky to anybody or arrogant because of the way they go about doing it. So, and they tell me stories about how they had heat with like Booker T. I don't remember the story or anything like that. And then they told me a William Regal story, and how, man, they have me laughing and stuff. Really great guys, man. They're awesome.
Would you be shocked if they called you for All In?
Yeah, I'd be shocked because I mean, that's something that I wouldn't plan on doing at all. I mean, they could have 100 people before me, all their boys. I mean, because right now they're in Ring of Honor. I haven't seen the guys since I quit wrestling, 3-4 years ago or whatever it was. I haven't seen them in a while. So, and we used to do Vines together. Actually, remember when Vine was popular? Mm-hmm. Like, they used to look up to me for Vines, like, man, you're great at Vine and stuff like that. They were actually, here's one for you. This is a little bit of a knowledge. There's a Vine out there where I come around the corner and I say, Scotty, and then the camera's on Scotty, and he says, F you, Petey. And then it turns back to me, and I'm like shaking my head, like, yeah, like I'm excited over that. That was 7-second Vine. The Young Bucks actually filmed that for me. I needed a filmer, and with Vine, you had to be really particular of how you film everything. There wasn't good, if they would ask me to film their Vines, some of them, and then vice versa, because it was like an artwork to it. So, but I mean, I would be shocked if they called me. I mean, I don't even know if I would. September 1st. I mean, that's Labor Day weekend. Who knows, right?
You like where this line of questioning was going, right?
Yeah.
I was just curious. I knew you had a relationship with them. You're still Petey Williams, so I thought I'd throw that out there. Let's move on. What else do you have before we
get to Jeff?
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's it. Unless you want to talk about the women's battle royal. Don't know. I mean, I don't have much to say about that. I just know there's a lot of backlash with that right now.
Well, how would you fix this? Because was it the Fabulous Moolah battle royal, and she had a reputation outside of wrestling. I'm not going to talk about it. We have young listeners, but it was very salacious. Is that a good word?
Yeah. Well, I don't think our young listeners will know what salacious means. So, I mean, if we're talking about young listeners,
I don't.
It was scandalous. I don't know.
Even
just
better.
From what I hear, and I've never met Moolah, and this is all hearsay from just things we've heard from, our Uncle Jeffs and stuff like that. Not that Uncle Jeff say anything, but, people coming on down the line, maybe books written or whatever, that, Moolah wasn't a good person. So why are you, naming this after her? And it just goes to show, like, how many of these people, imagine if there was Twitter or social media back in the day and all these, things that are caught on film nowadays or audio and stuff like that. I feel like back in the day, like, people like Moolah were protected because nothing was recorded back then, in privacy.
I don't know the full extent of all the allegations, but one of the biggest one was killing people's career. That's happened through wrestling throughout the year. It's happening now in wrestling. Let's be honest with ourselves. When you get to the top, you have to protect your spot at the top, and you'll do anything to do that. I'm not going to mention any names. Everybody knows everybody in wrestling that does it. Even on the indie scene where bookers are booking themselves as champions to protect themselves. It just happens.
Yeah, I mean, but how do we fix this? I don't think they should change the name, because then you change the name, you're almost like admitting guilt, and you don't want to do that.
You're giving in the fan pressure at that point.
Yeah, and that too, you're letting the fans book the show, so you go on with it, and then we'll see what the outcome is. Maybe they just back off of, like, the the female wrestlers saying, like, oh, I'm so, proud to be in this and stuff like that. Maybe they just kind of let it be and kind of have the match take a back seat. And once again, I mean, now it's a battle royal. You had a fabulous Moolah battle royal. It's like, and then now you're going to have an Andre the Giant battle royal. So this goes hand in hand with the things we talked about before that we got a little bit of backlash from. The females are just doing what the males did again, trying to, like, replicate what is already going on. So this isn't doing anything new. It would be good if, like, they came up with something new. I don't know. Maybe they could fix it and make the battle royal a little bit different. Maybe the last two people, it ends in pinfall rather than over the top rope. I don't know. Something just a little bit different than the males.
I would, if I had to book this and they were like, look, we're sticking with the name Fabulous Moolah, you can't change it. What would you do to make this different? I would put the number one contendership in a briefcase. I don't know if it's a briefcase, but something up there. Battle Royal, introduce a ladder, winner climbs to the top and takes it. Kind of a Battle Royal ladder match. Just tweak it enough that it's just not the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, but with women.
This is how you fix it. I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
No, this is how you fix it. You get their next big star that they want to make as the number one contender. They win the Battle Royal. They get the trophy. What do they do with the trophy?
Break it.
They destroy the trophy. Big pop from the crowd. If it depends. Like, if it's a smarter crowd and stuff like that, like, the internet's going to be like, yeah, they bash Moolah's. That's how you fix it.
Oh, I like that.
And that person could be the spokesperson, and because it could be in character, right? So if you say anything in character, it's fine. You don't get reprimanded for it, right? Like, because it's your character. So in character, they could say, I despise Moolah. Moolah's done nothing for the women's. They don't go right to the problem, but they beat around the bush, just knowing enough. Like, I have no respect for Moolah. Like, the women's division now is so much better, all this kind of stuff. So that's how they get rid of it, and that's how you book it. That's what I would do.
One last thing I want to touch upon before we move on to Jeff Jarrett. I can't call him Uncle Jeff. You can call him Uncle Jeff. I can call him WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett. For sure.
Yeah. Should I be calling him WWE Hall of Famer Uncle Jeff?
Yeah, that would be right. I can't. I have not earned that right. And there were a couple times during the interview, I'm like, can I drop an Uncle Jeff? No, I'm not going to even try it.
I don't think you can unless you're in that X Division group where,
No.
Yeah.
So let's.
You can refer to him as Uncle Jeff. Like, Scott D'Amore refers to him, like, he doesn't call him Uncle Jeff, but when he's talking to me, he's like, yeah, go see Uncle Jeff for that and that and that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this John Cena Undertaker thing. Remind me, it seems like it was a year. It may have been 6 months ago. It may have been a little bit longer. Wasn't John Cena giving Roman Reigns a rundown about how he beat a broken old man at WrestleMania, and then Monday night John Cena's out there trying to get the Undertaker. You're not old. You're not broken. You're fine. Come on out and wrestle.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So then you do that, and the one thing I hate is when a wrestler comes out and says, I'm going to do the one thing they don't want me to do. I'm going to challenge Undertaker. Like, not one person in this arena does not believe that the WWE does not want you to challenge the Undertaker.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's, once again, wrestling, everything's so forgotten pretty quickly. Like, I pretty much forgot until you just brought it up that, Cena was running down Roman Reigns about, like, you beat a broken old man. Pretty much that's what he called him. I totally forgot about that. Why? Because, I mean, what is our focus on right now? John Cena calling out The Undertaker, right? And WrestleMania and stuff. So, WWE does a really good job of making us look forward rather than in the past. Unless they want you specifically to look in the past, they'll have commentators say, or they'll show footage or something of a particular incident that happened in the past. It's almost like everything that's happened in the past doesn't even matter unless they want it to matter.
I heard that, and I just kind of shook my head going, first, we all know that you're the biggest company guy here. You would not come out with a live mic on live TV and do something they don't want you to do.
Oh, yeah, that's totally scripted. I mean, they probably didn't script exactly how he's going to say it. They probably didn't even script for him to actually say those words. Like, just go out there, you're going to challenge the Undertaker, put it however you want to put it. They probably have some writers or whatever. But, I'm pretty sure they give him the run of, like, hey, however you want to get your message across and get over, do it. So if he feels like, I could make it sound like a shoot, and that's the problem. Like, right now, I mean, this whole, like, let's just shoot on the mic and stuff like that. It never comes across as genuine, like when CM Punk did it that one time. And because, everybody wants to do it now and they know it's scripted.
You know my feelings on The Undertaker. And I'll say this real quick because it feels like I say this every time he comes up. He's not doing anybody any favors coming back for this WrestleMania. It's the novelty of seeing him come back doesn't work as it does in sports when you see your Wayne Gretzky come out, wave his hand, and, get a trophy or be inducted into something and then go away. The Undertaker still has to come out and perform, and I don't care if he can come out and perform at 40%. I don't want to see a 40% Undertaker. I don't want to see a 70% Undertaker. Just let me try to remember you the way you used to be.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I'm starting to creep into that era. Like, I'm getting older and I'm not the early 20s guy that I used to be. And, I know my wind isn't as good. And it's like, and that's pro wrestling, though. You look at Ric Flair, man. Ric Flair should have retired years before he retired. Like, 'cause I remember watching him going, like, is he going to hurt himself? Like, you only usually say, like, actually legit hurt himself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't say that until you reach a certain point, but at the same time, it's almost intriguing to watch. I remember watching the last couple of years, you're studying, like, man, he looks older, you're studying, you're going, oh man, like, did that actually hurt him? Or like, you actually feel like he actually might legit get hurt. So it brings a different type of dynamic, but I don't know if it's a dynamic I want to watch in pro wrestling.
By the way, I do want to say this. We're not doing a ton of guests, but we have a couple lined up into the future. Okay, we don't really, but you're around Detroit, and you kind of know a little bit about baseball, right? Mm-hmm. This was an awesome moment for me. There's a guy on my timeline that used to play with the Detroit Tigers, Dmitry Young. I don't know if you remember that name or not.
Yep. Yeah, it was probably like he played for them in like 2004-ish or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you even said that date because I post out my wrestling podcast and he starts, liking and commenting. And I'm like, what the heck is Dmitry Young? So I messaged him. I said, do you like wrestling? He goes, go back and watch Survivor Series 2005. I go, all right, maybe they pan into the crowd and boom, there he is, and they move on, right? You know how they do. Oh, look, to me, because it was Survivor Series 2005 was in Detroit. I'm like,
Okay.
Okay, whatever. I start watching, and this guy gets to cut a promo on Edge.
I don't even remember that. That's like a time where I didn't watch wrestling because I was so wrapped up in doing it. That was a lot of our travel time and Impact, so I had no idea that happened.
Go watch. Yeah. So Edge comes out, cuts a promo about, the typical heel promo about how all Detroit teams suck. And then he looks over and starts cutting a promo on Dimitri Young. And I'm going to butcher this line, but he says something along the lines of, yeah, you're not doing steroids, you're doing hamburgers, because he was that bigger guy. And I laughed. Yeah, I laughed so hard. But yeah, so I'm working on getting Dimitri on the show to kind of talk about that, because I think, as many cool people as we I don't know if we would ever have anybody that we could say cut a promo on, Edge.
Maybe except for like maybe Jeff Jarrett, but yeah, no, I agree, especially a non-wrestling, person. I love, like, when you talk to Dan Soder and stuff like that, they have different professions, whether it be baseball, stand-up comedy, another sport, movies, whatever. I like talking to them if they're wrestling fans, because I like to see a fan's perspective, and people be excited about it. And yeah, I mean, I like that. I really do. So yeah, I look forward to if we can have him on the show. Definitely.
So are you ready? Because I'm ready for Jeff.
Let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right. So this is the part of the podcast, Dennis, we've been waiting for. So I'll introduce him since, he was probably one of my favorite bosses I ever worked for. Just a little bit of recap. He's 6-time TNA champ, 4-time WCW champ, 6-time IC champ. And I didn't know this, but he had 77 total championships. And he's my uncle, Uncle Jeff Jarrett. How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, I've done a lot of media over the last month or so, and I don't think that I've actually been interviewed by my nephew. So, little guy, little Pete, little nephew, how we doing?
Good. So, before we get started I just want to say congratulations to the Hall of Fame.
I appreciate that. And I really do. I sincerely appreciate that. Both you guys, I appreciate you having me on. But you know what? Let me just flip the tables real quick and let me do the interviewing. So Petey, for the newer listeners that don't know our relationship and how far back it goes, and I appreciate your kind words about I was one of your favorites to work for, but that's okay. I raised you better than that. But no, if you'll sort of give some people a little background on where the Uncle Jeff came from, and I think that might be a little bit appropriate. Well, Dennis, do you even know where that came from?
Was it from the airport?
No.
I don't know.
Jeff,
I want to hear Petey's story. No.
Come on, Pete, spill it.
Well, I really don't know. Like, here's the thing. So Uncle Jeff, started the X Division pretty much. So he gave us all young guys a chance, to actually shine in wrestling, because stuff wasn't going on like that in WWE at the time. So, we're all like younger guys, early 20s and stuff like that. And I don't know how we came up with it or whatever, but all of a sudden, I think we were all talking, and it was kind of like, one of us said, like, Uncle Jeff. I don't know if it was me, if it was Sanjay, but then we just started calling him Uncle Jeff, and I've been calling him Uncle Jeff since maybe for 14 years now, maybe 13 or 14 years, and it's never stopped. Even when I saw you in August, it didn't stop.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm actually halfway joking with you, but halfway serious. So the people like, why in the heck does he call him Uncle Jeff? But I really think it was, if I remember it correctly, it was you, it was Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Sanjay, Jay Lethal. It was that, and you guys. There was some kind of reference going on, just sort of exhibition. But I think we were going over a 5-way or a 6-way match or something like that. And I think I threw out some kind of idea. Maybe Petey, I don't know. I don't remember the particulars. I just remember, and somebody referenced. He said, "Man, you're like the crazy uncle coming up with these ridiculous ideas." And I'm like, guys. I said, go out there and maximize your time. Show the world what you got, or something along those lines. And then it was like the next day at TV. It was one of you guys, and then it's sort of stuck ever since with that little, that core group of guys. There wasn't many of you guys, but to this day, Jay or whoever will still reference that from time to time.
Yeah, and and we still do. And I'll tell you something just before we get on to our first question here. When I came back in August, when Demore had texted me, and it was so funny because he said, I think you would like management now. It's kind of the group that we used to have that you really like. It's like myself, Abyss, Borash, and he even texted me Uncle Jeff. So he knows, everybody knows that I call you Uncle Jeff. So yeah, that's that. But all right, Jeff, I want to start with a question, and it's pretty much reference to this Uncle Jeff stuff and the contributions you had to pro wrestling. So, you look at all the wrestlers that started in TNA, a company that you created, and you look at where these wrestlers are now and all their accomplishments and stuff. Do you feel that your contributions to the wrestling business are downplayed? Because I kind of feel like that. Do you feel that way?
And Petey, not at all. And here's why. I've, as you well know, that my family's been in the business for years and years and years and years. And I always leave that up because it's so subjective. It really is. Whether it's a wrestling fan, a wrestling journalist, a wrestling critic, a wrestler, whatever it may be, it might make for good discussions. And good debates, and I've heard a lot of debates, whether going in the Hall of Fame, who's not in the Hall of Fame, that kind of stuff. But as far as contributions go, what I've always understood about this business is, whether it's you or anybody that I just referenced earlier, or AJ or Samoa Joe, or it doesn't matter. Any of those guys, the cream always rises to the top. If you've got talent, you'll get to the top. Attitude keeps you there, but you definitely got to have the talent. So all of you guys, I was a small part of giving you guys a platform. And just like that story we referenced, you guys all, time after time after time, the X Division not just stepped up to the plate, but stepped up to the plate and hit it out of the park. And it was really a good feeling to see how things grew back in that time frame that we're referencing right now.
Okay.
I've got a question for you. Now, as well as we know, the wrestling world was shocked when they announced you going into the WWE Hall of Fame, which I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia on Southern Wrestling. I missed the Attitude Era because I was watching WCW wrestling, so I couldn't be myself prouder to see you go in. But how was the first conversations about you going into the WWE? How did that go over?
Quick. The first thing is, it was on a Sunday morning, and I got a text, and it was from a WWE official, and said, "Hey, can you chat real quick?" And I'm like, "Sure." And the call was pretty direct. "Hey, what's going on?" And Karen was down in our bathroom, and she was getting ready for church, and the kids were getting dressed, and it was like a normal Sunday morning around here. Just a lot of moving parts. And the question was very quick and direct in the call. "Hey, we're calling you. We'd like for you to go in the Hall of Fame. Would you accept the offer?" And I was for a minute, I paused. I'm like, is this like a yes or no or a maybe, or I'll get back with you kind of question? Of course I'd love the opportunity. I was very, very shocked and surprised, but then, all pretty much in the same conversation, in the same breath, I was incredibly humbled by the ask, and it started to sink in. And then, the couple of days after that, I had to just really take a step back and think about everything. And it's very, very humbling honor, to say the least.
What was your favorite version of the Jeff Jarrett character? Because it has evolved so many times over the years that I've watched you wrestle. I've always wanted to ask you, what was the favorite your favorite just time being Jeff Jarrett? What were you doing? How were you doing it?
For me to say, and especially I guess you could say the longevity I've had in my career. One thing from an early age, the constant has been Jeff Jarrett. There's Double J. There's like you said, different versions. But the one thing that for the easy thing is that there's a lot of guys that got in the business like myself. My first match was in '86 that went through complete name changes, and you can take your pick. But I've always been my God-given name, Jeff Jarrett. So it's just been different extensions of my personality, and obviously with the Hall of Fame coming up, and the song "With My Baby Tonight," and that's how I debuted. That's gotten a tremendous amount of attention. But like on my Instagram, my kids and me, we came up with an idea to post a different picture from each year of my career during the 31 days of March. And you just sort of look as things progress. When I started here and I was the good guy in Tennessee and the 7-state area, the territory area, and then WWF, and then WCW, and then, TNA. And so, each period, it was just an evolution, so to speak. And I don't really, I certainly don't have any one era, but I do remember, something fondly from each era. But it was, hate to say it, but man, it seems like just yesterday, and you can probably relate to this, we were the kids in the locker room. Obviously, I was in the kid in the locker room 15 years before Petey was, or more. But man, it just seems like overnight. And now, I'm due to this Hall of Fame situation, and over the past month, I've never been a guy to look in the rearview mirror, but I've sort of been, I guess I've had to. And when I look back and just look at the progression, and got my hair cut and had that look, and then just as things evolved. And obviously in TNA, I was by design I had to take on new roles and new responsibilities, and then you get up in the later years and the situation, and I had a series of matches late in my career against Kurt Angle that I look back on fondly and very proud that when you get in the ring with Kurt, you know that you're going to be in a match. And so, we worked together for every night for over 6 months. So just different evolutions of and playing extensions of my personality. I've always, no matter what situation, tried to give the audience a little something different, because it's how I was raised in the business. You've got to evolve without question, and that's what I always tried to do.
So Uncle Jeff, since we're looking back at your career, look back at your entire career, whether it be wrestling related or your business ventures, knowing where everything's going to end up and where you're at today, us speaking, would you do anything differently? The short answer is no, because, then you're trying to argue with time and set of circumstances. I literally, if I was forced to and had a gun to my head, I could take every year of my career and shred to pieces and say, if I kind of did a little something different here and a little something different here and a little something different here, wonder how things would have turned out. But that's like having a regret. And regrets are truly useless. So no, the short answer, Petey, is absolutely not. Did I make all the right decisions? Oh my God, no, not even close. but the effort was always there without question.
Well, let's get out of the way back machine and take a look into the future. I don't know how much you can tell us, or if it's a secret, or if there's anything behind these rumors, but the internet is ablaze lately with the talks that you're kind of being recruited as one of Triple H's, up and coming right hand man to help NXT, or just being involved in the WWE. Are there any truths to the rumor? Do you have any plans with the WWE after the Hall of Fame? What does your future look like?
And that's funny. I literally was just at a ball game with my daughter in basketball, and a guy came up to me who I hadn't seen in a while, but I see him around town all the time. And that was the question he asked me, and I turned him around, and I said, I can tell you without question, you don't follow wrestling, but obviously you've heard this, and he saw the article in the local paper and blah, 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 and all that. And I said, I haven't had zero conversations with the WWE about nothing. The only thing I've discussed is 100% Hall of Fame related, travel, access, WrestleMania weekend. So that's exactly the status of that.
Well, you bring up WrestleMania again, and I have to know, as far as I can remember, you were in 2 WrestleManias and bumped from 1. Do you have any, WrestleMania moments that just really will stick to you until your dying day?
Well, I mean, I think there were 3, maybe 4. Okay. But by far my favorite. I got the team with Owen. And in Philly, I think that was 17, or I'm not exactly sure which number that was. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, I don't know, whatever number it was. But I got the team with Owen, and I can remember, obviously, it was in the Attitude Era. The business was just on fire. Words really can't describe it. And this generation of fans, because it goes back over 20 years ago, it's really hard to imagine, to discuss, and for people to imagine how hot it was. Both organizations, Raw, Nitro, Red Hot, then SmackDown and Thunder were added, and the live event business. It really, it was such a special time to be in the business, because technology hadn't progressed like it is now, and there's no way to duplicate those times. Both companies just on fire. So that, and then WrestleMania 13, when I defended the IC title against Razor, and X-Pac, or at that time 1-2-3 Kid was in his corner, Rhodey was in mine. Me and Rhodey really had a momentum and a lot of steam on it, and that was in Hartford. So those kind of memories will stick with me forever.
Pete.
Okay. No, that's good, Jeff. Anything you want to say? Well, thanks first off for coming on our podcast. Really appreciate it, and once again, congratulations, big time on the Hall of Fame nomination and induction. Anything you want to say, promote or anything?
Wait. Can I cut you off? I have one more question for him. I just have to ask him.
Oh, okay.
Go for it, my man. You're all over it. Pete was already ready to wrap it up, but that's okay. Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
So with you mentioned technology, and it just kind of popped in my head that kind of the podcast saved the comedy stand-up business. How do you feel like podcasting, with all the wrestlers getting involved, all the fans getting involved, how has that either revived or hurt the wrestling industry?
Well, I remember, before I broke into the business, you would hear old-timers complain about this or complain about that, but then on the flip side, you would also hear the same argument. You can't kill this wrestling business. Just keep them talking about it. And that's exactly what podcasting is. It is a discussion. It's debatable if it's healthy or not. That doesn't really factor into my mindset, but I believe the business is healthier today, because you just sort of have to take a step back and really look at it. It's $1 billion. Now what is the WWE worth? $3 billion? I mean, it's mainstream. The hottest box office attraction in the world is The Rock. He's a third-generation wrestler. John Cena is on movies, television shows, Fruity Pebble boxes, you name it. His name, likeness is everywhere. There's reality shows all across USA Network. There's so much content. The WWE Network exists. Then you get into the other promotions around the world, CMLL in Mexico. You've got Noah and Wrestle One and New Japan and 3 or 4 promotions in Japan. Then you've got the Red Hot scene in the United Kingdom. And the wrestling community, to me, is now more connected than ever. And, it used to be, and I don't know if either one of you guys can relate to this, it used to be if you wanted to watch wrestling out of your home, territory that you could watch on your TV, you had to trade tapes. Now with the network and YouTube and FITE, FITE, that app, just all the different forms that you can see. It's truly a global situation, and these podcasts, and there's a lot of them out there. Good Lord, there's a lot of them out there. But I think it's very, very healthy. And the fact that my old friend Petey Williams calls me up, texts me, email, we get in contact, and the fact that I'm sitting here, and chatting with you guys, and we're talking not just about the Hall of Fame, but the early days of TNA and the X Division, and now you've got me talking about podcasting. It's healthy. It's truly healthy for the industry, in my opinion.
I would be remiss if I let this opportunity go by that I don't ask you, what were your first impressions of Petey Williams when they pitched hiring to you?
On.
I have to ask this. What was your first impression of, the scouting report of Petey Williams when they brought this guy to you and said, hey, maybe we should take a look at him?
The scouting report read, uncanny athletic ability. He's Canadian. So right there were 2 things going for him. Everybody knows I got a soft spot for Canadians. But no, but Petey's, he goes without saying. I would say this if he wasn't on the line tonight. He's very, very athletic and quote unquote gets it. And during that time frame, when the X Division, where it was at, how big it was, where it was going, he was really. I mean, he was perfect. If not to get too overly dramatic here, but he was a big cog in that wheel, and his finisher, it goes without saying, it was one of those things where no matter how many times you set up for it and went into it and false finish out of it or escape from it, hate to use this word, somebody, it's so cliche, but Dennis, the finisher is over to this day. And that was something that, the X Division, not about weight limits, it's about no limits. And that move really encapsulated. I can hear Don West and Mike Tenay calling those matches, just the anticipation of it. And then, there was the thing that the X Division was much more about sport as opposed to entertainment. But then you put Petey and Little Papa Pump and Big Papa Pump and that kind of stuff that integrated into it. I mean, the minute by minutes, we can dig those up and prove it. It was they got ratings, and Petey definitely knew how to deliver in the X Division. So it was yes. Whether Petey was on this podcast or not, I almost called it call. Whether Petey was on this podcast or not, I'd be saying the exact same thing. And you look back in history during that era, and there's proof in the pudding there.
Jeff, I thank you so much for the kind words. You know what? And we've never had this conversation before, and I didn't know that's how you felt about me. So thank you very much. And
definitely.
Thanks for everything you've done for the wrestling business, not only for me but for the wrestling business. I truly, I truly do feel that. And and congratulations again. And any last words from you, Jeff, before we wrap this up?
That's it. No, I appreciate it, guys. I've been overwhelmed, and I literally, most of the time, whether it's however it is, I've always, I grew up in the business again, so I know that there's a side of this business that sometimes you got to face the music, and I've always done that, and PR is a part of this industry, and I've always, but during this Hall of Fame, I'm not promoting anything. I'm not, I'm literally answering you guys' questions. So I have done my very best to not turn down any request. And it's been a little bit challenging. I will say that when I'm trying to do my day-to-day business and then wife, kids, workouts, everything else, it has been a bit challenging. I appreciate you guys being flexible with me. I was running a little late. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. And when Petey reached out, there is no way in hell that I would say no to my man. So Petey is, he doesn't believe it, but he's been very good to me as well. So thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. And April 6th, 2018 is Hall of Fame. So looking forward to that for sure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.